Just Cheesy the Podcast, presented by Just Cheesy Productions.
Hi there, I'm your host, Fondue. In this week's episode, we celebrate Valentine's Day.
Ooh la la, Valentine.
We're going to talk about the history of heart-shaped cheese.
Wow.
We're going to talk about breakups.
Aw.
And we're going to be talking about some last-minute gift items.
Nice.
And of course, no episode would be complete without our very famous cheesy joke.
Yeah, joke.
Stay tuned for episode 65, Brie My Valentine,
Brie
on Just
My.
Cheesy, the podcast. So cheesy, have you heard of the cheese called Neufchâtel?
I don't know. I think so.
Well, you know when you're in the cheese case at the store and you see cream cheese and there's that low-fat version with the word that you can't pronounce?
Yeah.
That's Neufchâtel
Oh, that's right.
in the United States.
Oh.
But did you know that in France, it's not even close to the same cheese?
Really?
According to myfrenchlife.org, Neufchâtel cheese in France refers to a bloomy rind cheese.
Okay.
It's described here as dense and fudgy,
Ooh.
and it's got a really salty kick.
Yum.
And it's in the shape of a heart.
Aw.
And according to the courtyarddairy.co.uk, this has nothing to do with Valentine's Day.
Really?
But the cheese originated over 500 years ago.
Holy cow.
This cheese comes from the town of Neufchâtel in the Normandy region of France.
Ah, okay.
This cheese was not initially heart-shaped.
Really?
It was not made specifically for Valentine's Day.
Really?
But it did come about during the 100 Years' War
Oh, wow.
between 1337 and 1453.
Whoa.
According to CuriosityMag.com, during this war, the town of Neufchâtel was occupied by English soldiers.
Ooh.
And they said that the local women fell in love with the English soldiers.
Sure.
And once they went back home, every year at Christmas, the ladies would send them a heart-shaped cheese.
Wow.
But Patrick Chevalier, the Grand Master of, I'm going to butcher this,
Oh, no,
the
Fondue.
Confrérie
Oh.
des Compagnons
Oh.
de Fromage Neufchâtel
Oh,
says
wow.
this form finds its root in practicality.
Oh.
So they say back when there were wooden molds, the heart-shaped cheese was actually easier to unmold because there was less of a chance of the cheese sticking to the surface of the wood.
Oh, okay.
They also say that this heart-shaped cheese is actually the predecessor to the heart-shaped chocolate box.
Wow.
And this cheese is pretty unique.
Really?
So Normandy is home to a native breed of cow that is descended from animals brought to the region by the Viking invaders in the 9th and 10th century.
Wow.
And apparently, since 2017, the herds devoted to Neufchâtel have to be made of at least 60% of white cows splotched with brown.
That's interesting.
Yep, I thought so too. They say it's a richer milk, it's richer in protein and in fat.
Huh.
French Neufchâtel is known for its saltiness.
Really?
They say the method of salting used to be basically having the cheese in one hand and a bucket of salt in the other, and you just sprinkled the cheese with the salt. It was about 3 to 4% salt, but now it's about 2%, and the cheese and the salt are both weighed, so it's a lot more consistent.
Oh, nice.
And because a lot of people buy this cheese in February for Valentine's Day, it's actually pretty young.
Right?
But they recommend getting the cheese at least a month old.
Oh.
And that would be about a tan hue with a white rind.
Okay.
That would make it nice and soft. And they say it should never have seen the inside of a fridge.
Okay.
So they like to push it even further to 2 or 3 months old.
Ooh.
They also say that there are very few heart-shaped cheeses.
Really?
But as of the first of this month, Aldi started to carry their 3 different heart-shaped cheeses.
Whoa.
They've got something called Emporium Selection Valentine's Day cheese assortments.
Ooh.
They have raspberry and white chocolate,
Ooh.
gin and rhubarb,
Yum.
and a cheddar cheese.
Yummy.
We have a link in our show notes to DoorDash so you can find these cheeses yourself.
Nice.
I believe they're limited time items, so if you're able to find them, Aldi's got some really cool looking, very tasty cheeses.
Nice.
Aldi, not a sponsor,
Not yet.
but when they are, their ad will go right here. Have you ever wanted to listen to the web?
Yeah,
Well, Newsly makes that possible.
they do.
They're an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android.
Super app.
You can listen to trending articles on the web on topics that you choose and get them read to you in a natural human voice.
What kind of topics?
Sports,
Cheese?
tech, business, science.
Cheese?
I'm sure there's even cheese.
Yay!
They even have an entire section for podcasts.
Are we there?
Of course we are.
Ooh.
It's one of my new favorite podcast apps. They even have digital radio.
Holy cow.
Just go to www.newsly.me to download it free.
Whoa.
Or use the link in the description. If you use the promo code CHEESY, that'll get you 1 month free premium subscription.
Yay, Newsly.
Now, back to the podcast. Did you know that back in 2021, Dane's Cheese offered something called a Valentine's breakup insurance?
What?
Their insurance was simple. If you had a significant other, you had to sign up for the offer.
Okay.
If that significant other were to break up with you on Valentine's Day, you would get flowers,
Ooh.
ice cream,
Whoa.
Dane's Semada, and an online date with, as they say here, a
Okay.
Dane's certified hottie.
Wow.
The animal rights group PETA actually has a booklet that tells you how to break up with cheese.
Why?
Now, it says, why call it quits with dairy? Simple, cow's milk is meant for baby cows and not humans. You can buy their booklet. They suggest a $5 donation for 25 booklets to break up with cheese.
Aw.
We're certainly not breaking up with cheese,
Yeah.
but if you're interested, go ahead and check out the PETA website.
Okay.
And if you haven't gotten your gifts for Valentine's Day yet,
Nope.
we've got a few items for you that you might be able to get just in time.
Like what?
Our first one comes from a website called sellerstories.com, where you can buy a book
Ooh.
called The Romance of Cheese.
Aw.
The book was published back in 1933,
Whoa.
and it actually comes from Kraft.
Really?
And it says here, and I quote, "The romance of cheese. Strange as the association seems, the story of this ancient and honorable foodstuff is contained in the warp and woof of the history, legend, economics, and folklore of all the peoples of the world."
Wow.
Sounds like a fun book.
Yeah.
CheeseProfessor.com has a couple of suggestions for you.
Okay.
They talk about Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese in Northern California.
Yum.
They're offering an After Dark basket for $85.
Ooh.
This has enough for 2 or 4 people. It comes with chocolate, biscuits, date spread, and a cheese knife.
Yummy.
For $115, you can get a virtual tasting
Whoa.
and a class called You're So Cheesy
Uh-huh.
from Formaggio Kitchen in Massachusetts.
Neat.
You have to sign up online, and the class is held on the 14th of February
Okay.
at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Nice.
And lastly, they talk about making your own quick romantic cheese.
Really?
And they talk about one called Coeur la Creme, which is heart of the cream.
Ooh.
That looks pretty tasty.
Yeah, it does.
And if you're looking for something a little less expensive,
Yeah.
something you don't have to make yourself and not interactive,
Yeah.
and maybe you want to combine Valentine's Day with the 13th, which is National Cheddar Day.
Ooh.
Well, RogueCreamery.com has the thing for you.
Yay.
They have a cheese called Cheese is Love Cheddar.
Aw.
Now, this is pretty unique
Really?
because this particular cheese, for every block that's sold, they actually donate the same amount to the food banks in their community.
Aw, nice.
And they have donated a whopping 7,636 pounds of cheese since January of 2021.
Holy cow.
You can buy it online or you can find it in person at their cheese shop.
I'm ready for a joke, Fondue.
Okay, what is the best pickup line for a cheese lover?
No idea.
Are you cheddar? 'Cause you're looking sharp.
Oh, my. Wow. Ew, it's so smarmy.
Oh, I know it was smarmy, but it was also a little bit cheesy. Thanks for listening to Just Cheesy the Podcast, episode
Thank you.
65, Brie My Valentine. Don't forget to check out some of our older episodes,
Yeah.
especially the one about the big game.
Yeah.
Season 1, episode 13.
Stay cheesy, everybody.